Hello, everyone. This is Jeff Halper speaking from Jerusalem. And this is my monthly update for January 2026. You know, when I say update, I don't really mean an update in terms of what's happened on the ground over the last month. We try to provide that, of course, in our analyses on our website, in our materials, and I try to build that into the updates I do, of course. But ICAHD has always been a big picture political organization. We're dedicated to making a genuine contribution to Palestinian liberation. We want to make a contribution to the decolonization of Palestine. And as an anti-Zionist, Israel-based political organization, we want to play a meaningful role with our Palestinian partners in constructing a just post-colonial future for all of us. So that for us, updating means where are we in the struggle, the big picture, because I think that's missing. We do get, maybe not enough, but we do get information about what's happening on the ground through the news media, our own connections, social media, and so on. We do not have enough discussion in terms of where are we in the struggle and what do we have to do in order to really become effective. Because from our point of view, the aim is to become a political actor, is to be a political actor, not merely a gadfly, not merely protesting, which is important, resisting, which is crucial, uh, spreading information, education, lobbying with governments, doing human rights work, BDS, all that is crucial. But in the end, to become a political actor means we need three things. We need a political program, we need organization, and we need a strategy. And what's crucial in all of this, of course, is this has to be a Palestinian-led movement. And so as a partner to the Palestinians, certainly a stakeholder from the point of view of the post-colonial future, in ICAHD, we're always asking, where are we in the struggle and what do we have to do to really become effective as political actors? And that's what I mean by an update. Okay, so where are we in the big picture? Where are we in terms of the struggle? Well, I've talked about this many times before. They say that repetition is the essence of education. But it's crucial that we adopt a settler colonial analysis. Without that conceptual framework, the things just don't make sense. And you can't really know where you're going because you don't know what kind of a struggle you're involved with. In a settler colonial struggle, in which the goal is to Judaize Palestine, that's the Zionist goal, to transform an Arab country into a Jewish country, to transform Palestine into Israel. There's four stages that I've talked about before. The first stage is invasion, which happened at the turn of the 20th century, the initial settlement and establishment of the settler colony. The second is the Judaization of Palestine that happened from the Nakba until today with the massive settlements we're seeing in the West Bank and the ethnic cleansing. The fourth stage, which is the final stage, is that of normalization. Settler colonialism ends by normalization, by this simply becoming Israel, um, and erasing the Palestinian presence. Settler colonization does not end with a victory. It ends simply by becoming normalized. And the normalization then means the normalization of Israel and all its settlement enterprise, an apartheid regime, and locking the Palestinians that remain in Palestine, about half the Palestinian people only, permanently in cells that make up the Bantustan of an Israeli apartheid regime. That's the end game, and it's getting close. What the urgency in my voice, I think, and what I'm trying to say is that this isn't an open-ended process. True, it's been going on for more than 100 years, but it has an end, and that end is normalization. And the name of normalization in this case is the Abraham Accords. They talk about normalization. Trump uses the term normalization, and this is the idea. And after normalization, there's very little political space left. That, in a way, is a closure. And so there's an urgency because the Abraham Accords, even though they seem invisible, one of the problems is, of course, that we follow things that are happening immediately. Palestine already has been, to some degree, pushed out of the picture. We're in a very wet, cold, miserable winter. In Gaza, it's flooding. I can't imagine what's happening to the people in Gaza. But that, to some degree, has been pushed off the screens because of Iran, that we certainly should pay attention to, and Sudan, and the Ukraine, and Venezuela, and other issues. So that part of our job as ICAHD, as a partner in this struggle, is to try to keep our attention focused on the struggle itself, including the invisible, unsexy, kind of dry processes that are going on that tend to get lost in this shuffle. And that is the Abraham Accords. They have not disappeared. The timetable has not changed. And we're heading inexorably towards this normalization process, conceivably in the next few months. But normalization needs, and this is the third stage. I didn't skip the third stage by accident. The third stage, to prepare the way for normalization. Normalization is normalization. It has to be seen as normal. It has to be peaceful. It can't have resistance, a resistance movement because going on, because then it can't be normalized. And the Arab street, of course, the Arab and Muslim worlds and the rest of I think the people in the world pretty much do not want the normalization of Israeli apartheid and settler colonialism. So the question is, how do you get to an industrial quiet that appears to be normal? How do you remove the resistance? How do you break the resistance so it all appears normal and quiet so that you can get on to the normalization stage? And that is where we are today. We've passed the invasion phase. We've passed the Judaization phase. We've passed a lot of the pacification and ethnic cleansing phase already. This has been now more than 2 years. Normalization is not a negotiation. It's an imposition. Nobody's going to ask the Palestinians. So whatever Israel can grab, whatever facts on the ground it can create, by the day that the normalization agreement is signed, Saudi Arabia comes into the Abraham Accords, that's what Israel gets. And that's why you have this third stage going on today that's comprised, on the one hand, of ethnic cleansing, driving Palestinians out of their communities in order to take as much land as possible, which is happening in Area C, but also in Area B. What people don't really see, and this is maybe an update in terms of what's happening on the ground, is that there's military invasions of the refugee camps of the north of the West Bank, partly to destroy any resistance coming from there, but also to really destroy the whole refugee issue and to destroy the camps. Israel has already tried to neutralize UNRWA, to get rid of the refugee issue as well, which is a form of resistance towards this normalization. And so there's between 40 and up to 70,000 displaced Palestinians today in the northern part of the West Bank that we don't hear much about. So that kind of displacement, the ethnic cleansing, the taking again of 85% of Palestine, and leaving the Palestinians trapped in these cells in Area A, maybe half of Area B, maybe a quarter of Gaza at the end, if that. That is the end game. That is what is going to be normalized. And therefore, we have to mount an effective movement against that. But we also have to introduce this element of urgency that I really, to tell you the truth, don't feel. We're doing good things, but it's like it's open-ended. We don't have a political program. And you can't be in a political struggle without a program. We don't have an organization. There's very little coordination. Every organization in the world that does great stuff does it according to its kind of its own agenda or in reaction to what's happening. There's no real organization, certainly not Palestinian-led organization, and there's really no strategy. So we are not effective political actors. And that brings me to the second piece of this. If that's where we are in terms of the struggle, we're really getting close to the end game here. And we have to really organize urgently if we're going to be relevant at all. So what's the problem here? The problem isn't support. I think the Palestinian struggle has passed the level of global support that existed for the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa. It's become maybe the global struggle today, although again, the danger is if nothing happens, it begins to get pushed aside by other urgent issues like Iran and Sudan and Venezuela and other places that'll be popping up all the time. We have to be concerned about that as well. And so we have to keep people engaged. We have to keep a movement going, and we have to be political actors at this stage before any kind of normalization is imposed. And there has to be Palestinian leadership. And here is where the real problem is, because Israel is able to block and has blocked effective Palestinian organization. That's the reality. The Palestinian leadership is there from on the ground in the popular committees in villages and towns and cities throughout Palestine. The analysis is there. The intellectuals are there. The political factions are there. The ideologies even are in place. Everything is in place except that Palestinians have been scattered. They can't meet with each other and they can't speak out. I can't begin to convey to you the level of totalitarian control over every minute of every Palestinian's life that's happening today in Palestine. And I don't only mean the occupied territory, I mean inside Israel as well, where the Palestinian citizens of Israel used to have this much more freedom, latitude to speak out and organize than the Palestinians in the occupied territory, but that's gone. That also has been closed down. The control, the repression, the suppression is absolute. And Israel, as one of the leading, high-tech powers in terms of surveillance, certainly, is able to keep track of every Palestinian's movements, contacts, postings, even thoughts every day. In other words, Palestinians are living in a situation today in which they don't have the ability to come together, to plan, to develop political programs, and to organize. They simply don't have that ability. And we have to, I think the contribution that we can make as supporters of the Palestinian struggle is to enable them to come together and take that leadership position that they have to have, that they're ready for, but that they simply, in other words, we have to find a way of working around this Israeli suppression. And for that, the Palestinians need the ability to meet. Palestinians from the northern West Bank can't meet with Palestinians in the south because of Israeli controls. Not to mention Palestinians from 48, from Gaza, certainly, but also where are the refugees in the camps, the refugee camps in Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, right? And there's a disconnect to the diaspora as well. All of these segments have to have the ability to come together, and they have to have a safe place in order to do that, and time in order to really organize and develop that political program that we all need in order to advance. So I just want to throw out one idea. I mean, there's a lot of, this is really food for thought, and this should be a central part of our discussion. How do we empower and enable and support our Palestinian, not just our partners, the Palestinians, to take the lead in the struggle that we all need in order to become political actors that they're unable to do today because of Israeli suppression. One idea I just want to throw out is this. This is something that groups abroad can help do. And that is, the problem of meeting, Palestinians meeting, and having time to really get into a political discussion, bridge differences, get to know each other, and begin to develop a coherent political program. For that, they need space, and a protected space. One thing the groups could do abroad that your group could conceivably do, maybe in a coalition with others, and obviously with Palestinian, not just input, but the Palestinians have to be the ones that control the process. Who's invited to the meetings I'm talking about? How is it structured? But the logistics of it and the funding of it has to be from the outside. And that is to find spaces, whether it's in your town, your country, or Jordan, or Turkey, or anywhere where Palestinians from all over can meet together, to have that protected space, and then work with your Palestinian partners, whoever they are, to identify, let's say 20 or 30. I'm thinking of small group conferences, 20 or 30 Palestinians that represent the different communities, gender balanced, obviously, that have all the ideological camps within it, a really as much as possible representative group, or whatever, however the Palestinians want to structure it. And to invite 20 or 30 people to this safe space for a week of intra-Palestinian discussions. We stay out of it. Palestinians meet with each other, they get to know each other, they build trust with each other, they build the differences with the focus of developing a political program, whatever it is. I mean, in my thinking, it has to be ODS. It has to be some form of a one democratic state program, but that's really up to our Palestinian partners to decide. And in that way, to begin to empower them to come together and take the leadership role that we also desperately need, right? That means, of course, that it has to be a safe space. I think you would have to work with your governments or whoever the authorities are to ensure that there are no reprisals against the Palestinians coming to this meeting, that they can go to these meetings, right? And if they participate and begin to become leadership, to take the leadership, that they're not suppressed or killed or imprisoned by Israel, which is likely to happen. So that there's a lot of work for us to do infrastructurally to create the conditions in which Palestinians can then come together and again develop the political program that we desperately need and to lead the struggle effectively. So that's my update. We're getting into, if this is a doomsday clock in terms of the struggle, I would say we're 10 minutes to midnight in terms of this of the normalization of Zionist settler colonial process. And we desperately need, urgently need, Palestinian leadership and a coherent political movement around the political program. And part of our role should be to engage with our Palestinian partners and say, what do you need in order to come together and take that position? And I think these meetings, from my own experience with Palestinians, these meetings would be crucial in providing that space and time in order for the Palestinians to do that. So I'll leave it at that. That's my struggle update for January 2026. And really, we have to begin mobilizing because 2026, in one way or another, is liable to be the end game. It's liable to close down the political space that we've had all these years. This is the year when we have to step out under Palestinian leadership and really become the political actors that we can be. Thank you much, and we'll talk next month. Bye.